My name is Emma Wilson, and I never in a million years thought I'd be the type of person who would secretly record a family dinner conversation. But desperate times, as I learned the hard way, call for desperate and sometimes clandestine measures. For years, my mother-in-law, Martha, the unquestionable matriarch of the prestigious and wealthy Wilson family, made it abundantly clear that I, a nurse from a modest background, was an unwelcome addition, a smudge on her perfectly woven family tapestry. But nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared me for that fateful dinner at her sprawling colonial mansion, where she raised her crystal wine glass, locked eyes with me across the long mahogany table, and announced to everyone present that I would never be a real Wilson. What Martha didn't know, as she smiled triumphantly at my public humiliation, was that my phone was silently active inside my purse, the microphone engaged, capturing every syllable of her calculated cruelty. That recording, that small audio file, would become the key to shattering the illusion my husband had lived under his entire life, the catalyst that would change our lives forever. Before I dive into the harrowing details of my story, I need to ask for your help. You can support this channel and help us create more stories like this by hitting the like button and subscribing right now. It's a simple gesture that costs you nothing, but for us, it's incredibly significant. Every like and subscription tells the YouTube algorithm that this content is relevant, which helps us reach more people who love these stories of justice and validation. Now that you've done that, and I thank you immensely, let me know in the comments where you are watching from today. I love seeing how far these stories travel, connecting us all through shared experiences. Now, let's get back to how that secret recording became the catalyst for my liberation. I met my husband, Robert, a brilliant and compassionate cardiac surgeon, at a medical conference in Chicago. I was attending as part of the nursing staff for my hospital, presenting a poster on post-operative care, while he was a keynote speaker presenting his groundbreaking research. Our connection was immediate and profound, a spark in a crowded room. By the end of the evening, we were sharing coffee in a 24-hour diner, and the conversation flowed so naturally, it felt like we'd known each other for years. We talked about everything and nothing, our shared passions for medicine, our dreams for the future, the quirks of our childhoods. He was different from the other surgeons I knew. There was a gentleness in his eyes, an absence of the arrogance that so often accompanied such success. Our relationship progressed quickly, a whirlwind romance fueled by long video calls and weekend flights. Within 6 months, I had made the monumental decision to relocate to his East Coast hometown to be with him. It was during this time that I first noticed his strange hesitation about introducing me to his family, particularly his mother. He would describe her with a carefully chosen phrase. "She can be a bit much," but his nervous expression and the way he'd avoid the subject suggested something far deeper than typical family quirks. He was afraid, though I didn't yet understand the depths of that fear. When we finally met, Martha Wilson was exactly what you picture when you hear the words old money matriarch. She was impeccably dressed in a tailored Chanel suit, her silver hair perfectly coiffed, her home a shrine of antiques, oil portraits of ancestors, and an inherited elegance that felt designed to intimidate. Her smile never reached her cold, calculating eyes as she assessed me from head to toe, her gaze lingering a moment too long on my shoes and handbag. She immediately emphasized my profession, not with respect, but with an air of condescension. To her friends and family, I was not Emma, I was Robert's nurse, as if it were a curious and slightly unsuitable occupation, like a sword swallower or a fortune teller. The first major incident, the first red flag that I foolishly and stupidly ignored, happened on Thanksgiving. After I had spent days helping in the kitchen, as we sat at the lavish table, Patricia turned to me and asked me to pass the cranberry sauce, but she called me Vanessa. The table fell into absolute silence. James froze. My brother-in-law looked down at his plate. She feigned an exaggerated gasp, blaming it on years of habit, but the glint in her eyes, a flash of triumph, told me it was intentional. It was the first time she had stabbed me in front of everyone, and I just smiled and said, "No problem," swallowing the humiliation along with the dry turkey. When James proposed to me, Patricia's reaction was chillingly cold. She barely glanced at the ring, a family heirloom, and remarked that the engagement had been hasty. Wedding planning became a battlefield. I dreamed of a ceremony in a botanical garden, intimate and full of flowers. She insisted on the family's country club, a pompous and soulless place. The breaking point, the moment my patience ran out, was when I went shopping for my wedding dress. I had made an appointment at my favorite boutique and invited my mother, my sister, and Patricia. To my shock and horror, Vanessa was there. Patricia introduced her as an excellent stylist who could help me find something that would truly flatter me. Vanessa smiled, complicit, as Patricia tore down every dress I tried on. "That one clings to your hips too much. This fabric looks cheap." I felt naked, exposed, and judged. I confronted Patricia privately, right there in the shop, telling her that her behavior was inappropriate. Her mask with sweetness fell, and her face hardened. "Vanessa is like a daughter to me. I'm just trying to help," she said, her voice icy. That night, James and I had our first major fight. He accused me of overreacting and not understanding that his mother was just trying to help. I gave in, as I always did, to keep the peace. But something inside me broke irreparably. That very night, I started keeping a journal, documenting every insult, every manipulation, every tear I shed in secret. It was the only way not to doubt my own sanity. In our first year of marriage, the problems intensified. Patricia would show up unannounced, using the emergency key James had given her to organize my house. She would rearrange my furniture, replace my pillows with ones of her own taste, and once I caught her going through our mail. When I suggested she call first, she played the victim, saying she didn't know she needed an invitation to see her own son. James, caught in the middle, never took my side. "She just means well, Emily," was his constant excuse. At the same time, my career was taking off. I was promoted to senior marketing director, and Patricia's hostility grew in proportion. She would make comments about how I left James to eat dinner alone, and that a wife's priority should be her home. In private, though he claimed to be proud, he echoed her concerns. "Aren't you working a bit too much, honey?" Then I found out I was pregnant. The joy was immense, overwhelming, but the terror of giving Patricia even more access to our lives was paralyzing. Her reaction to the news was bizarre. She hugged James tightly as if he had accomplished the miracle alone, and barely gave me a pat on the shoulder. The interference reached new heights. She suggested baby names that belonged to Vanessa's family tree and tried to decorate the nursery in colors I hated. When I developed gestational diabetes, she used it to blame me, saying I wasn't in shape and that Vanessa never had such problems. She would bring over sugary foods I couldn't eat, claiming they were for James. The comments about my changing body were relentless. When we found out it was a girl, she seemed disappointed, remarking that the first grandchild in the family was traditionally a boy. By my third trimester, I was exhausted, physically and emotionally, and at my breaking point. At 6 months pregnant, Patricia informed me, she didn't ask, that she was hosting my baby shower. I tried to argue, to say that my best friend, Sophia, and I already had plans, but she accused me of being difficult and ungrateful. James, once again, sided with her, saying it would be good for me not to have to worry about planning. That's when the red flags became impossible to ignore. Sophia called me, uncomfortable, saying Patricia had asked her strange questions about my past relationships and my emotional stability. Another friend received an incorrect address for the party, a clearly deliberate mistake. A week before the event, I stopped by Patricia's house to drop off a gift and saw the guest list on her desk. Vanessa's name was there, circled with a star next to it. My blood ran cold. I took a photo with my phone as proof. When I confronted her, Patricia vehemently denied it, blaming my pregnancy brain and my paranoia. James, even with the photo as proof, hesitated. His talk with her resulted in Patricia crying and accusing me of trying to drive a wedge between her and her son. That was the final straw. I decided to find out what she was really planning. 2 days before the baby shower, I offered to help with the preparations. While she was busy on the phone in the garden, bragging to one of her friends about the perfect party she was organizing, I made my move. I went to her desk and picked up her phone, which she had left unlocked. My heart was pounding uncontrollably. What I found was worse than I could have ever imagined. There were dozens of text messages between Patricia and Vanessa planning the surprise. The messages revealed their plot to use the baby shower for Vanessa to reconnect with James, to show everyone how they still had a special connection. But there was more. There were explicit texts between Patricia and a man named Michael, her golf instructor, revealing a 2-year-long affair with meetups on the weekends she claimed to be visiting her sick sister. I took screenshots of everything, every sordid word, every treacherous plan, and sent them to my own phone. The revenge had just been conceived. On the morning of the baby shower, the weather was as dark as my mood. I arrived early, wearing the uncomfortable pink dress Patricia had chosen for me. The decor was an overwhelming explosion of frills and bows, and the cake read, "Daddy's Little Princess." Patricia introduced me to her friends as her emotionally fragile daughter-in-law. In the middle of opening gifts, the doorbell rang, and there she was, Vanessa, stunning in a form-fitting blue dress with a victorious smirk. Patricia announced her as practically family, and the room fell silent. Vanessa sat in an empty seat next to James, who said nothing, paralyzed. I went to the bathroom to hold back tears of rage. Sophia found me there, ready to cause a scene. "I'll take them down, Emily," she whispered furiously. I stopped her, told her I had a better plan, and asked her to be ready to record. During lunch, Vanessa acted like the guest of honor, touching James's arm and laughing at inside jokes. After the main course, Patricia stood up to announce the dessert. James's favorite chocolate mousse cake, made from Vanessa's grandmother's recipe. That was my cue. I gave a subtle nod to Sophia. I stood up slowly, my heart hammering against my ribs, and asked for a moment. I thanked everyone, and then I thanked Patricia for her special effort. I announced that I had discovered just how detailed her planning was, and that I wanted to share it with everyone. I asked James to connect my phone to the flat-screen TV in the living room. He looked at me confused, but obeyed. The first image that appeared on the screen was the screenshot of Patricia's text with Vanessa. Gasps filled the room. Next, Patricia's instructions to Vanessa on how to seduce my husband. James's face went white as a ghost. Patricia lunged toward me, screaming that I had no right, but I continued. The messages with Michael, the golf instructor, revealed her affair. I looked directly at Robert, Patricia's husband, as his face crumbled in shock and betrayal. Finally, I displayed the last text where Patricia told Michael the baby was just complicating everything. The room was deathly silent. I turned to James, my voice trembling with contained rage, and said that I spent 3 years trying to please a woman who never wanted to accept me, while he repeatedly chose his mother's feelings over mine. I told him I loved him, but I would not raise our daughter in an environment where her mother was disrespected and her father was too weak to defend her. I picked up my purse, thanked everyone, and said that the truth had been my gift to them that day. I walked out with my head held high, hearing the chaos erupt behind me. I stayed at my sister's for 3 days. James showed up, devastated. In the most honest conversation of our marriage, he admitted his weakness, his lifelong conditioning to appease his mother. I showed him my journal, and he was horrified by the extent of her cruelty. We agreed to seek professional help and that he needed to set firm boundaries. The public confrontation and the affair revelation led to his parents' separation after 35 years. Robert, free from Patricia's manipulation, became a dedicated grandfather and an unexpected ally. 3 months later, our daughter, Olivia, was born. James was by my side, a supportive and transformed partner. In the following months, we continued therapy. He worked through his conditioning. I processed my anger. We learned to function as a team. 6 months after Olivia's birth, Patricia requested a meeting. In therapy, she offered her first sincere apology, admitting her jealousy had consumed her and that she had tried to sabotage my place in James's life. We established strict boundaries, and to my surprise, she accepted them. Throughout this journey, I discovered a strength I never knew I possessed. The passive Emily was gone, replaced by a woman who fiercely protects her family. My career also flourished. Our marriage emerged stronger, though forever changed. On Olivia's first birthday, James thanked me for fighting for our family when he couldn't. Healing isn't a destination, it's a process. I learned that family isn't always defined by blood. The revenge has been served, but the war is not over. Patricia's story is just one. There are thousands of them out there, and yours could be next. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to join our army. Subscribe to this channel and smash that notification bell, because the next revenge story we tell will be even more shocking. Now go down to the comments and vent. Get it all out. Tell your story. Expose your pain. This space is a war zone against injustice, and your voice is your most powerful weapon. Subscribe now. Comment your story. Join the revenge.